Hi, this is Charles, bass player from Final Gravity, and this is my playlist for the week of January 19th to the 25th, 2026. First album I listened to was Queensryche, Q2K from 1999. Oh dear. With their popularity on the wane through the 90s due to being associated with hair metal, and the departure of founding member and strongest guitarist-songwriter Chris DeGarmo, and the failure of their previous album Here in the Now Frontier to do much of anything on the charts or with fans, Queensryche were in a quandary. So, instead of working with a strong producer who might have helped them shape their ideas, they decided to self-produce their album and move further away from the safety of the fortress of progressive metal that they had helped build less than a decade earlier. How did that work out? Well, sonically, drums sound natural, but almost like a demo. Maybe they were trying to tap into that unglossy, underproduced thing that a lot of grunge bands were doing in the 90s. The guitars are thin and reedy, the bass is buried, the vocals are too dry. It's kind of a sonic mess. Song-wise, the opening track, Falling Down, is a song about being depressed. It has very little to do with either the current flavor of hard music at the time or of pop music. It's sort of genreless rock. There's a sex song with Sacred Ground. Sample lyrics, when I'm inside you, you bring me to sacred ground. Ick. There's a deadly momentum-killing run of several slow-tempo songs and ballads. Breakdown has a little life to it, but its simple riff and its repetitive nature fails to launch. Burning Man, it's a cringy song about, yeah, you guessed it, the Burning Man Festival. Did they go? There's no evidence they did. Maybe they were just trying for relevance with the kids. Who knows? Gone is nearly every trace of their previous progressive and metal tendencies. Brutal honesty? If this was the debut album from a band I had never heard of, I probably would not have even given it a second listen. Sadly, this isn't even my least favorite Queensryche album. But it's part of their career. And if they hadn't had this phase, they wouldn't have had the excellent rebirth of the band with new singer Todd LaTorre that we have today. So, was it worth it? Only the band can tell you, but I can say I do not revisit this album very often. Next, I listened to Pelican, City of Echoes from 2007. This is an all-instrumental post-rock, post-metal album that opens strongly with Bliss in Concrete, a track that harkens back vaguely to the grunge explosion of the early 90s, until it gets all heavy with riffs that would not be out of place on an album by the Ocean Collective. Metal rears its ugly goddamn head again in the track Dead Between the Walls, which is my favorite here. Starting with what sounds like the dying belches of an abused old Ampeg bass head, this track crashes to life with locked-in palm-muted power chords chugging with occasional bursts of 16th notes, and then there's a totally different section that could almost pass for pretty. Lost in the Headlights is another great track with well-thought-out parts for individual instruments and great ensemble playing. But there are plenty of pensive moments as well. There are many shades and colors that the band express here, often within the same track. They will take you places that you did not expect based on where you were starting, but not enough for you to get lost or to give you whiplash. This is a great band, and it's a great album. I highly recommend it. Next album I listened to was Whitesnake, Saints and Sinners from 1982. Featuring the solid early Snake lineup with Mickey Moody and Bernie Marsden on guitars, the quietly awesome Neil Murray on bass, David Coverdale's previous Deep Purple bandmates Ian Pace on drums and John Lord on keys, which are mainly organ, electric piano, and some funky clavinet. This album was produced by Martin Birch, a guy responsible for so many great hard rock and metal records in the 70s and 80s that he should get some kind of award. In contrast to the polished, chart-topping Hairspray image and Led Zeppelinisms of Whitesnake's breakthrough self-titled album that was still 5 years in the future, this record is a lot more blues-based rock. Maybe there's a little of early Zepp to be found here, in Love and Affection, but check out Bloody Luxury, a lively bluesy stomp with Ritchie Blackmore-esque guitars, or the title track that closes the album, and try to reconcile that with Still of the Night. Even more amazingly, the original recordings of Crying in the Rain and Here I Go Again debut on this album, but without all the gloss and synths that they would be remade with. These are organic, gritty, and swing a bit more. It's a revelation if all you know is the later arena rock version of Whitesnake. Their next album after this was 1984's Slide It In, which I would argue is their last great album before the band's identity completely shifted to glam. Their later period was certainly more commercially successful, but I prefer the earlier bluesy Whitesnake. After that, I listened to Bow Wow, Signal Fire from 1977. Bow Wow is an early Japanese hard rock proto-metal band. There's a bit of a Spinal Tap vibe here. The songs occasionally come near unself-conscious parody to my ears. Check out Just One More Night to see what I'm talking about, or Bow Wow's Silver Light that sounds like Spinal Tap's Heavy Duty. The title track is a speedy little instrumental number that might recall, I don't know, Montrose? Excellent guitar playing, with a pretty good drum break. The album ends with a slow ballad in the style of Gary Moore's Parisian Walkways or Thin Lizzy, but without Phil Lynott's sly sophistication and self-deprecation. This album is well recorded and mixed, with occasional harmonized guitar lines and leads, various song tempos, unexpected well-rehearsed breaks and accents. While it's not amazing, it really is unlike anything else I can recall hearing from that period in the 70s. Next, I checked out Our Oceans, Untamed, an EP from 2025. The excellent instrumental band Exevious reinvented itself about 10 years ago and became the trio Our Oceans, with, to my ears, less musical success. They have released 2 full albums since then, and recently now this 4-song EP. The track Untamed is energetic and really shines a spotlight on the vocals of, hope I'm saying this right, Timon Grudinier. As a vocalist, he's a great guitarist. Reminds me vaguely of Cynic. His guitar lead is short and strong, but Leave Me Be is maybe a little reminiscent of Carnival. All moody vibes, weirdly EQ'd drums, swirly synths, layers of vocals. It doesn't ever really catch fire. Lost in Blue has a nifty, fretless bass line, and is so delicate that it feels like it could fall apart or fly away at any moment. Not at all what I would call rocking or driving. Like the previous track, this one never leaves the station. Golden Rain finally picks up the tempo and the energy level, but overly busy drumming is nearly a vibe killer. And while the faster tempo is welcome, this song again just doesn't connect with me. I wish Exevious would get back together. Last album I checked out last week was Steve Stevens' Memory Crash from 2008. Axeman, best known for being Billy Idol's rooster-haired guitar sidekick in his 80s heyday. Stevens has also released a flamenco album of primarily acoustic guitar and played in the semi-experimental trio Bozio Levin Stevens. Here he provides a mostly instrumental album covering a fair amount of ground. Drums are provided by Brian Tichy, who has also played with Whitesnake, Foreigner, The Dead Daisies, Michael Schenker, Billy Idol, Lynch Mob, Vandenberg, Ace Frehley, Gene Simmons, and Jeff Tate's Operation Mindcrime. The vocal track Day of the Eagle is a Robin Trower track that features barely disguised riffs from Jimi Hendrix's Spanish Castle Magic. Doug Pinnick of King's X turns in an expectedly excellent lead vocal performance on this tune, and it is the highlight of the album for me. Other tracks include the Satriani-esque Hellcats Take the Highway, the lyrical Water on Aries, which features a bit of acoustic playing, Small Arms Fire, which starts off pensively with acoustic guitar before developing into a hard rocker with sinister descending sections and a keyboard-heavy break in the middle that segues into an odd meter section before the whole thing wraps up. It's a long track, but it doesn't feel it. In total, it's a pretty decent guitar album, but 2008 might have been way too late in the game for this to make more than a ripple. Well, that was all that I listened to last week. Come back next week. We'll see you all then, and here's the t-shirt of the week.